I'm going to show you how to make this medium Lush rose today out of 20 to 25 of the medium sized petals. It's 4 rows. This is the first row, second row, third row, fourth row, and then the center, which is like this. I'll show you how to do both in this video instead of making 2 videos about the center and the outside rows. First, I'm going to get my base, which is my medium size base. I'm going to just trace around it. I can see it through this paper, but if not, if you can't with your paper, you can always just print out another one. I obviously do not make it look perfect because this is just kind of like my guide to where I'm going to put my petals so they look proportioned and not out of whack. But this does not show it all, so it's just for my guide and on the inside of the flower. So I'm not doing the first row because that would make it even bigger. I'm just going to keep this one about 18 inches total. So I'm going to cut this out. These bases are the best for me because it shows me exactly where I need to put my petals, so there's no questions about if it's even or not, and that's really important to be somewhat even, actually. I'll put this to the side. I won't need it right now. I've already cut out my petals. I'm using my medium size Lush and my small size Lush. Sorry, they're a mess, but I use these all the time. So it's my original template, and I still have them over hundreds of flowers later. So I cut out, I think, about 25 of these bigger medium ones, and I cut out for the center, it's going to be 3 tighter rows, so 9, and then the more opened up would be an extra 3, so 12 total, but I think I cut a little bit more than 12 just to be on the safe side. If I screw one up or something, I cut usually a few petals extra. The center is pretty easy, actually. It's just 3 of these, 3 of the small size. I'm going to curl both of the sides the same way, which these are going to go on the inside. It's just easier for me to curl down. I use a flat iron because the heat really makes it quicker and faster to make the curls, and it heats it, or it heats it so it stays curled for longer, I think. And it's easier. Sorry, my dogs are upstairs. So this time, I'm just gonna make a fold maybe about a quarter of the way up. Okay, now that I glued, after I folded it, they're pretty folded. They're folded pretty even, actually. So I'm going to put glue on the first petal on the bottom, then overlap the second petal. So I've created like a V or an A, depending on how you see it. Now I'm going to put glue on the top of the other petal, but this petal I'm going to cut in half. So one side is going to go on top, right there, and the other side is going to go on the bottom. Obviously, this does not have to be specific and perfect lineup. Like this one was pretty lined up. This one obviously has a different gap, which is fine because it really doesn't matter. It usually looks good. Okay, so now I'm going to fold this side in. The one that's on top gets folded in. This side is going to get folded in, and this side is going to get folded in. So it's going to look just like this. And I kind of play around with it to see exactly where I like it. I just twist like if I was trying to get a lid off of something. So I like that. Looks pretty good. Then I'm gonna just add glue to the inside of each petal. Once I've let the glue dry, it's kind of like a cone shape, which is the very center of the rose. Now I'm gonna get 3 more. I'm gonna do the same thing again. Gonna curl them under. Got a little glue on this one, so I'll put that to the side. Because if I go over the glue with my flat iron, it makes it, it leaves glue marks on the petal, so that's not very pretty. Okay, so now, same thing. Just gonna fold up the bottom, about the same size. And this time, you're not gonna be able to overlap the petals. I'm just gonna glue one on each side of the little triangle. Now that I've made a triangle base, or center, I should call this the triangle center rose. So, see how I just put glue? So I'm just gonna keep overlapping on the bottom. Now I put glue, just gonna go here. Then I'm gonna do the next side. And you can see my folds are not perfect because honestly, it really does not matter. Nobody's gonna be looking at your rose close enough. And the same for this. I'm just putting one side in, one side out. So this side is in, then this side is gonna be out. This side is in, this side is gonna be out. Then I just, again, kind of twist it up like I'm opening or closing a bottle, whatever, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna glue it. I like the way that looks. Looks good. So I'm gonna take one petal, put glue on it. Now I'm grabbing 3 more and doing the exact same thing, but I'm only curling one side tighter down and the other one more looser. So I'm gonna go with, what side would this be? This would be the left side. I'm gonna make the left side tighter, like more curled in, and the right side open more. So same thing. I'm going to fold it 1/4 of the way up, maybe less, a little bit, like 1/8 or so. Now I'm gonna see if I like that. Okay, I like that, perfect. So now I'm gonna put glue on the bottom, same thing. I'm just gonna stick it on and see how it really goes in there almost perfectly. Now I'm gonna do the next side. Just putting glue on the bottom, overlapping. You don't have to overlap, it's basically, it just is how I did this one. It can overlap or underlap, it does not matter. As long as it fits somewhat good. And then, see, I'm gonna add glue to the inside of each of these petals and stick it into this part. And say if I curled it the opposite way and this side went in, that's also fine. I would just add glue to the inside of that petal and just stick it on. So mine just happened to fit in between all of those. It's the way I curled it. So I put a little bit of glue right there. Then now I'm pushing it in and holding it. So it'll fit right in that little fold. So same with this one. I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on the inside. And then I'm going to push it into that. But like I said, if your fold is, your inside curl does not match up with that, that is fine. All you have to do is just put glue here and push it onto the center because it's gonna look great. It really, you do not notice that it does not, it flows into this pocket good. It's just how I curled them and set them up. Okay, now that I've put glue on that petal, I'm just holding it so the glue dries and they stay in place. Now that is the center. Now since this is done, I'm gonna grab three petals, curl the left side because I'm just following what I did on this. I did the left side tighter, so I'm gonna do the left side in and the right side out. This is gonna create like an S or a wave. See that? Now I'm going to do the same thing. Fold it up, little fold, probably the same size as the last. Now let me see if I like where that lays. I'm gonna put it right here and see. Yeah, I like where that is. Then I'm just gonna glue them to the bottom and it's gonna look just like this. And I can also put it on the outside of the other petals if I want to. Just depends how I want it. This one is on the inside, so I'll do the same for this one because these will match. So same glue, stick it on the bottom. Like such. I'm gonna do this one. And then this center will be complete and done. And I will start on now building the base around. They look pretty similar since I made them. This one I made yesterday, this one I made today. And these little curls, little waves or S's, I made tighter than I made these. I made these looser. But the nice thing is you can go back after if you're like, oh man, I should have made those petals a little more curled. That's why I love the flat iron, because you can go back and basically edit the flower after you've made it. A lot of times when you use a tool that doesn't have heat, you can't, because it'll bend things, it'll squish them, but with the heat of a flat iron, it works so much better. You can also use a curling iron, which is amazing. Okay, now to the base. This is my base. It's my medium base. I just did not cut the top. Okay, so this is about 5.5. So this base is about 5.5 total inches. Now I'm going to attach my tab, which is just floral wire. I cut it probably like 4 inches. Then I just twist. And I apply a little bit of glue to where one of the peaks, one of the points are on my pentagon shape. And then I push it down. So it's pretty much stuck there. And then once I add the petals, I will put more glue on. Okay, so now I'm going to do the outside row first. I'm gonna grab 5 petals. I don't know if this is 5, but it feels 5. I'm gonna curl both of them the same direction. I'm curling them back. You can do one at a time, but I find when I do more, it does not leave a mark. It doesn't leave like lines or anything on the petals. So now that I've done this, I just kind of fold them, let them cool. Then I cut a slit in the base, probably around 2 inches. And these, I'm only gonna overlap the bottom slightly because I don't want the petals to pop too much. I call this a petal pop. When I overlap them more, it makes the petal pop up more. So with my first row, I'm not gonna do much of a pop because I want them to lay flatter because they're going to go against a wall. And like I said, every row closer to the center, I make it pop more. It's going to be a long video. Well, it usually takes me, I don't know, 20 some minutes to make a big flower. And funny thing is, they're actually easier than the smaller flowers because the smaller flowers are pretty time consuming and dainty. My fingers are not small. So these are easier for me to work with. Okay, so I'm just going to put my first petals here. And I'm going to put on 3 of them right now. 1. I just put it between the lines and between the peaks, which is perfect because see how it's giving me placement of where it needs to be so it matches the other side. Sometimes I do 6 petals, sometimes I do 5. I did 6 on the smaller ones, but I want the bigger petals to look, the bigger flowers to look different from the smaller ones. So I'm doing 5 on the bigger. Now that I've had my first row on, I like this, and I'm going to now put on my second row. And I'm going to grab 5 more petals, maybe even more than 5. I'm not counting. Curling them back again. I'm holding them. It's kind of like when you curl your hair and you hold the curl after it's out of the curling iron. You let it rest in your hand or pin it for a minute so it really seals in the curl. Same thing with, I think, a flat iron and curling the petals. Okay, this I overlapped more because see how I want it to pop up more? Okay, now, same thing. I'm going to put a petal in between the 2 in the first row, but I'm going to bring them in slightly to the middle of the second row so they are not just the same height as the first. Because you kind of want to bring the flower in. At least I do. I'm going to put it on back. Same thing, and because these petals are pretty big, you're going to overlap them slightly. Especially the more you go in, the more overlap they're going to have. So that's my second row. Now I'm going to do my third row. 5 petals. Same thing, curling them back, making this curl a lot tighter because these are going to need to, you know, really pop a lot more. I grabbed more than 5 petals too, that's for sure. Same thing, cut in the center. About 2 inches up, and now this is going to have a lot more of an overlap, creating a much bigger petal pop. And if I wasn't talking, it would be a lot faster, but trying to give directions as I make them, my brain is thinking, and my hands are working, it takes a little bit longer. So more overlap, and 1 more, and then that'll be my third row. Same concept. You are going to Put glue on it, bring it in ever so slightly. This one just slightly because I'm going to add one more row and I don't want to bunch it up too much in the middle, so I'm just barely putting it over the two. And this one should line up with your first row. If not, that is okay. It's really, you know, I find that the more natural and organic the flower looks are more prominent the imperfections, because obviously flowers are not perfect. So I've learned that when I cut, it really does not have to be perfect around the outside, because see, like this one is not a good cut, but you don't notice because it's curled and it really just flows nicely. So I'm going to drop the center in a minute. Once I do my last and fourth row of the big petals. Now this one, I think I'm just going to only need 4 petals. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the center. I'm going to curl 1 inside, which will be again the same left. I try to stick with a pattern when I do the wave petal. 1 inside, 1 outside. So front is the left side, back is the right side. Then I'm going to cut up the center. Same, about 2 inches, maybe a little more, doesn't really matter. Now these are going to overlap the most because I want the petal, see how it's basically like standing up. And then it's going to go just like this. So when I drop in my center, it will just pop up and engulf my flower. Okay, so same thing, big petal pop. And when you curl the left side in and the right side back, when you layer them, when you put one on top of the other, it's perfect because the one that goes inside goes on top. So see how it's, this one goes forward, then the next one goes forward and is on top, the next one goes forward and is on top. Okay, I'm resurrecting this one from my last batch that I did too many of, but so petal pop, major. Okay, we'll do one more, so this will be 5 total of the medium-sized petals. On the last row to the center, big petal pop. So once I glue it, I'm going to stick this right on the inside. And how pretty is that going to be? Bam. I always like to put